I'm going to be reading the story of Miss Moppet. But first I'd just like to show you, if you'd like to get a hold of these books, there's 23 in this series, and they've been around a while. So this is one of the most famous Peter Rabbit's books, written and illustrated by Beatrix Potter, which have been enchanting children throughout the world for 4 generations. Beatrix Potter was born in London in 1866, and during her rather lonely childhood, she studied art and natural history. The first Peter Rabbit was a schoolroom pet, and she learned to love the countryside and its inhabitants during the childhood holidays in English Lake District, where she made a home for the last 30 years of her life. So Peter Rabbit books have been translated into many foreign languages, and no other animal stories have so captivated the imagination of children and adults alike. These little books should be among the first owned by any child, and their appeal is as fresh as when the first story was published more than 80 years ago. Well, yeah, I've re-bought them for my little granddaughter who's 6, and I'm going to read them first online before I give them to her, and make sure that when I do give them to her, she's old enough to look after them, and whether indeed she's actually into it. They do have kittens at home. When Beatrix Potter wrote and illustrated the tale of Peter Rabbit, she had little idea how popular this story and the 22 which followed it would immediately become. Each of the 23 tales has been reprinted over 100 times, and in the 80 or so years since their initial publication, much of the dedicated brushwork and detail has disappeared from the pictures. To remedy this, Frederick Warne has located Beatrix Potter's original artwork and photographed it to produce these wonderful new editions of her stories, thanks to the modern printing techniques. Her illustrations appear as freshly as when they were first printed, and confirm Beatrix Potter's place as the most celebrated children's artist of a century. Yeah, well, there you go. That explains why F. Warne and Company are there in the pictures. Yeah, the same as the back and the front. So this one's a hardcover. It's slightly different than those, the other ones. But here's Miss Moppet. The sun coming in the window now. I think I must start another one. This is a pussy called Miss Moppet. She thinks she has heard a mouse. This is the mouse peeping out behind the cupboard and making fun of Miss Moppet. He's not afraid of a kitten. This is Miss Moppet, jumping just too late. She misses the mouse and hits her own head. She thinks it's very hard cupboard. The mouse watches Miss Moppet from the top of the cupboard. Miss Moppet ties up her head in a duster and sits before the fire. The mouse thinks she is looking very ill. He comes sliding down the bell pull. Miss Moppet looks worse and worse. The mouse comes a little nearer. Miss Moppet holds her poor head in her paws and looks at him through a hole in the duster. The mouse comes very close. And then all of a sudden Miss Moppet jumps upon the mouse. And because the mouse has teased Miss Moppet thinks she will tease the mouse, which is not at all nice of Miss Moppet, is it? She ties him up in the duster and tosses it about like a ball. Oh, look at the poor little love. But she forgot about that hole in the duster. When she untied it, there was no mouse. Oh, goodness gracious, if she was really hungry enough to eat a mouse, she wouldn't have done it. He has wriggled out and run away, and he's dancing a jig on top of the cupboard. There you go. Oh dear, that's the short little story about Miss Moppet. And Miss Moppet was is the sister of Tom Kitten, who we read about last time. And I think there's another story about the third sibling. There's Moppet, there's Tom, and there's Mittens. So I'll see you next time. Oh well, you'll see these lovely pictures and hear my voice next time. Bye-bye for now.